Okay, everybody, it's it's time to talk about everything that's happened with Green Lantern in the month of January 2022. And we'll start with the positive stuff, because this month ended up being a pretty big bummer for Green Lantern fans, but we'll get there. First, the good stuff. Green Lantern number 10 has started bringing everything to a head with a massive battle raging on Oa, while halfway across the universe, John Stewart finally completes his ascension and makes a decision that'll impact the Green Lantern Corps going forward. Everything is starting to collide, and I can't wait to see how this all ends, and what the ending means for where we go next. I stopped by the Lantern Cast to talk about Green Lantern number 10, and how oddly similar the structure of this series is to the Book of Boba Fett. Check out Lantern Cast episode 465 to see what I mean. Justice League vs. the Legion of Superheroes number 1 kicked off the Gold Lantern saga, with a setup issue that's mostly concerned with moving characters into place and shuffling people back and forth through time, so sadly there isn't much to talk about yet. We do get a little insight into the personality of Kal-El, our Gold Lantern. He doesn't seem totally convinced of his own worthiness, but intends to make the most out of the opportunity, since embracing the legacy of the Lantern has already brought so much meaning to his life. It's implied that if Kal-El does well enough and proves the benefits of having a Gold Lantern around, it may lead to the rise of an entire Corps, though that may just be wishful thinking on his part, as he does claim to know the history of the Green Lantern Corps, including what ultimately happened to them. That's pretty much it for the issue, and it's not a lot, but I now desperately want to see Kal-El meet a Green Lantern, and this time travel story is the perfect opportunity. Okay, so that was all the happy stuff. The entire rest of this video is unfortunately going to be dedicated to things we thought we were going to get, but now we're not. Artist Brian Hitch posted on Twitter about a proposed JSA book by himself and Geoff Johns that apparently won't be happening. He says he's been trying to get a Justice Society book going for the last 6 years, but the, quote, more practical / non-creative end of things kept it from happening, which could just mean problems with editorial, or it could have something to do with the changing direction of the entire DC line. The redesigns for Alan Scott and Jay Garrick are the same ones that appeared in a double-page spread at the end of the Stargirl Spring Break special last year, showing off a new JSA made of members who'd been prominently featured on the Stargirl TV show, members who are going to appear in the Black Adam movie, as well as some comic mainstays like Power Girl, Mr. Terrific, Flash, and Green Lantern. And considering this was the only piece of art in that entire book drawn by Brian Hitch, it stands to reason this was intended as a teaser for the book he and Geoff Johns were set to work on. As it stands now, we may still get a JSA book eventually, but there's no telling when, and it may not look anything like this. So, a few weeks ago, DC announced that the current Justice League series would end in April with issue 75, and that in the story, most of the team would die. The various covers show a coffin with a Green Lantern symbol, John Stewart with the rest of the League, and most of the other Earth Lanterns being alive, which makes it look like John is going to die. That seemed pretty weird considering everything going on in the Green Lantern comic right now, and when I remarked about it on Twitter, Geoffrey Thorne, the current writer of Green Lantern, said he didn't know anything about it and had just learned about what was going on in Justice League the same time the rest of us did. A few days later, DC released their full solicitations for April, and there was no Green Lantern anywhere. With the exception of Justice League number 75, there is no Green Lantern content being published in the month of April whatsoever. Even books like Justice League vs. the Legion of Superheroes, which focus heavily on the Gold Lantern, and DC vs. Vampires, which has leaned hard on Vampire Hal Jordan as an antagonist, are both missing from the April solicits. I don't doubt that these miniseries will continue, and this may just be a case of delays getting in the way, but usually the move is to solicit the next issue anyway and then just push the date back later, so their absence is weird. But the thing that has people concerned is the lack of a new issue of Green Lantern. April should have been issue 13 of the Geoffrey Thorne run and the start of his second arc. DC hasn't said a thing about this, and is leading everyone to assume the worst based on the information we do have. An arc wrapped up with issue 12. As of right now, there doesn't seem to be an issue 13. The writer of the book wasn't told the main character of his book is being killed off in a different book at the same time. a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that Green Lantern is being cancelled and Geoffrey Thorne is being fired from the book, and I understand how you get there. I do. I had similar thoughts myself, considering Thorne has made references in the past of what he'd do with the second arc if we get one. So maybe this means the worst has happened and the second arc isn't coming. Or maybe there's a completely different reason for not shipping an issue of Green Lantern that month. The solicit for issue 12 promises a pretty big status quo change for the Lanterns, and we don't know how that does or does not play into what's going on in Justice League. And again, DC has said nothing. The closest we do have is the limited amount Geoffrey Thorne is willing to say on social media, which boils down to the fact that whatever is going on, it's DC's responsibility to tell the public about it. It's not the responsibilities of the individual creators, who are likely contractually unable to tell us about it. So we just have to wait and see. And finally, let's all get even more disappointed, because Green Lantern Alliance, the second middle grade original graphic novel starring Tai Pham, has been delayed by 6 months to October 18th. This book was originally supposed to come out at the end of April, but that's a bad month for Lanterns, as it turns out. DC has also canceled all existing pre-orders, so you'll have to order it again when the book is eventually resolicited as part of DC's October releases. So that's the Green Lantern Roundup for January 2022. What a way to start the year. If you have something to say about any of these topics, or if there's anything you think I missed, let's keep the conversation going in the comments section down below. You can usually find me reacting to these developments in real time on Twitter, and I'll be back doing another one of these videos a month from now, so subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you're notified when that video drops. Until then, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.